Well, if you're not playing for first, you're effectively playing for last in this type of setting right here, because Global Championships is on the line. That is
okay, Ricky Bobby.
Also very, very important as we start really looking at the standings and how things are going to start shaping out. It is very clear that regardless of whether or not Peterbot and Pollo put their feet up and just decide, you know what, log off for the evening, they're top 3. Like, undoubtedly, have so much points here. But of course, we're not going to see that happen. Here's Booga and Aegis, man. What a good game for Booga and Aegis, right? Really jump back into things. And all of a sudden put themselves in the running, right, for at least a good ending to their event day.
They have a very real shot, though, at potentially hopping into top 3. I mean, we saw them jump 13 placements just off their performance in Game 7, so can't really count anyone out in terms of the teams that are just outside of, I think, second place and under is the more realistic position that we're kind of anticipating teams to try and threaten. But School and Thoric inside the vault, running back out from Grand Glacier. Seems they've got Blake completely on the ropes here currently, and Blake, no chance of survival. He's just gonna get run down entirely. School and Thoric gotta be feeling very good about that one. But
especially after they were, you know, dropped so quickly in the last game. So all of a sudden, Blake and Macwood, who had a lot of momentum coming into this, is starting to slow down here.
A lot of Peterbot and Pollo's success, though, in those end games is just so heavily credited towards that aspect of agility, the way that they're able to seize the high ground. More on that later, though, as Rapid on the run for his life. This is a little bit of a 180 in comparison to what we saw in Game 7 here, but Rapid from the pan straight into the fire. It's Vert who's just looking to take full advantage. Really just comes down to which duo is actually going to get credit for the elimination. M-Pen and Pump will take those 6 points for themselves. But just tough luck for Rapid in that kind of situation.
Yeah, there's no escaping that. That is, that just is what it is at this point. We'll be seeing you. This game off to a really hot start. Only 90 players left. Take a look at what's happening on the other side. Meanwhile, here's a first for the broadcast. A little bomb dive from the high ground there for Sigma and Decay, finding themselves a well-earned elimination there. Snooty Steps, triple con. What is happening here?
Sometimes I feel like players just do things that they feel like will make the broadcast highlight reel. That's what that play looked like for Sigma. But yeah, the triple con situation at Snooty is definitely a pretty peculiar one, because this is not a massive POI. There is not a ton of loot and resources to really split at this location. And depending on how things play out, if this is a really drawn out fight, you can definitely expect to see most of the goods just get expended by the teams currently at this area. But just as quickly as we zoomed in to check in on the fight, they all seem like they just want to leave it be and go their own ways.
Yeah, it's a good time to rotate out right now. See some Pikes on the move here. Zeus and Pikes switching up their drop. Seems like they have been indecisive a bit over the weekend. Bouncing back and forth.
They've still been hovering the general territory, though, of Mount Olympus. It's just, as opposed to going more towards the northern side of Mount Olympus, they've now opted to go a little bit further south, which is more like in between Mount Olympus and Brawler's Battleground. There's really not much for them to grab with the way that they switch things up, but the priority just seemingly being that they don't want to become the immediate targets for Booga and Agers. It seems they'd rather take their chances in the mid-game for their surge. Pars and Baka, though, they're not going to have to wait that long. One elimination, make that 2 onto Jutrez. Keep in mind, it's another one of those teams that we saw as a potential threat to Peterbot and Pollo in day 1, but they've actually opted to just leave Grimgate entirely by the looks of it. Chance and Aaron, though, they want a piece of Baka and Pars. Whether or not they find it, we'll have to find out later on.
Yeah, that's a team that's definitely been impressing me. I'd say one of the bigger surprises, Bach and Pars. I mean, I've seen what they're very much capable of in person. It takes me back to those land pits where I've watched them challenge different teams, and they are the real deal. So no surprise to see them up in the standings here now. Emerging of the regions. Reciprocal and G Monster on the move right now. Here at the Underworld, utilizing this to its best capabilities for the quick rotates here. Very early in the game, though, as things start to slow down now. 88 players standing here. Still very much faster than the previous game. Game 7. Miro and Dukes in a bit of a skirmish here. Up against Tankacito. And glory to God.
Bit of a slow start, though, for Dukes and Miro. A little bit of Flowberry Fizz now from Dukes. Have to expect that he's going to look to try and jump up, challenge Takasito, but it seems as if Dukes and Miro are maybe a little bit concerned about getting lit up from teams south of their current location. They don't want to find themselves too exposed in that fight. They know that that time to elimination's got to be quick, scoop up that surge damage, and then just look to prioritize in making another endgame.
Zone's pushing all the teams out of Mountain Olympus now. Boogie and Agers running on a limited clock here. And they just got into a bit of a brawl against Crisp and Vortex there. Yeah, they're going to heal up. You see Boogie on high alert, looking back, but not too concerned now. Look, they didn't even get to finish this drop at all. There's still gear everywhere. Unfortunate.
Mount Olympus was definitely a pretty hot spot in EU. Saw Queasy and Thomas dealing with the triple con. Doesn't seem to be the case for Booga and Agers, but with the way that Crisp and Vorteca were closing in on their position, they just wanted to grab their loot and get out. And the next objective, I think, for a lot of these teams, we're going to see some of them trying to maybe take some engagements for the forecast towers. And even though we've got Aaron and Chance on screen, thinking about forecast just reminds me of Baka and Pars. And I think part of the reason why Baka and Pars haven't necessarily had that strong debut just yet is because the forecast tower that they like to opt for has potentially been getting threatened decently by Peterbot and Pollo, because Vivid mentioned it on the desk. We saw Peterbot and Pollo controlling a good amount of those early game objectives, and especially the forecast tower. They fully understand just how much of a benefit it is towards their end game strategy.
Yeah, Bach and Pars are just one aspect of Medallion away from being like dominating, I think, on this season. But you know, you make your bet, you got to lay in it. No one wants to contest for the best item, arguably, on the map there. Then these are the results.
Skittles and Trashy, seemingly one of the only teams willing to early fight against Peterbot and Pollo. Good shot coming out of Paco with the Hunter's DMR. 4x scope. A little bit of a sniper glint in response, though, from Threats and Sphinx. Sphinx likely also rocking a DMR. Sure enough, he's got a 4x as well. But a blue Hunter's DMR in comparison to the green. Still, Sphinx won't get his revenge just yet. Instead, he knows, I've got to get into the safety of zone. Even though it's only a 1 tick currently from the storm, you don't want to find yourself eating too much damage when you don't have any white heals immediately available. Unless Threats is carrying some splashes, bandages, or medkit, have to expect that Sphinx and Threats, they just need to go. They've got to get a move on. They don't want to get caught up in any sort of congestion on the edge of the zone that they're trying to approach.
Yeah, Muzz and Paper hot on the heels right now. Damage coming in. Sphinx burning through that crucial material right there. It's going to be hard for them to bounce back in this game right now. Let's see, just 30 seconds before they're going to have to make another long journey north, so.
And the worst part is cutting. I was just going to say, cutting through fencing fields, that POI has been gutted when you think about the 4 teams dropping there.
Yeah, Yeah, 4 teams. There is nothing they're gonna find there, that's for sure. Take a look at the high ground surge base going down right now at the Grim Gate. This is a little different too. Peterbot and Pollo in a surge base center of Grim Gate as opposed to one of the mountains off on the edges.
Just tower v tower, man. These fights for not necessarily height control just yet. Obviously, this is just teams playing for their respective surge. It's funny that it's Cooper and Kanata on the other side, though. Our first and second place teams just administering shots to the other, but breaking down the height situation in NA in general, it's crazy to think that throughout the course of this weekend, only 5 different teams have even been able to hold height for more than a minute, Monster. And just for a quick comparison, EU had 17 different teams. So only 5 of them actually managing to like hold on to that height position. It's just insanity.
Yeah, it really shows you the playstyle difference of how the teams that I feel like have opted to do just that are likely finding much more success, right?
You would think so, but we saw how well it paid off for Peterbot and Pollo in Game 7. Problem right now, though, for Miro is that he's operating as a solo. Has to burn through his medkit, but he's still not done with his engagement. We checked in so early on with Miro and Dukes up against the likes of Glory for God and Tankacito, and the fact that those two still haunting Miro and Dukes, still holding them up. They are far north on the map, all the way in Classy Courts. This exchange so far between these two teams has left both of them worse for wear, because even if Tankacito and Dios manage to get this elimination onto Miro, which doesn't look like it by the way that they're opting to rotate fully dead side in the water, it's going to take those teams so long to just actually make it into the zone that everyone else will have already gotten prime real estate for their positioning.
Yeah, the only thing Miro has going for him is that he still had his 400 medals, so he has an opportunity to bounce back, to say the least, but saving Dukes this late in the game is going to be a difficult task nonetheless. Here we have Cold and Acorn on that rise to the top right now. 200 points here after a big previous game, chucking them right into top 16 here. And I think Vivid framed this conversation best for Acorn and Cold. It would be quite the shame if today they play as we expect them to, which is hyper consistent and honestly pretty respectable eliminations in general if they just make it to endgame. So
again, though, the biggest difference really just being that Acorn and Cold have not had to deal with that immediate 50-50 up against the likes of Yasir and Krizix. Pollo and Peterbot from way downtown of Grim Gate just being an absolute nuisance with this Thunderbolt of Zeus, spamming attacks, destroying everybody else's builds. They don't even care what happens next. They know nobody is able to really shoot at them because they have their underworld dashes. They have a little bit of mobility, so they're not fully locked into that animation by any means. And it's just displacing everyone else in the lobby.
I respect it. They're looking for any box. They're just lighting it up at this point. When you have a lead like that, you can just have fun. Take a look at Trashy. Nice little tag out the sky right there. A little laser focus to close in the elimination as well. Meanwhile, Paco and Mixon. I think Paco and Mixon's rotations can surely be studied. They've done a great job of playing dead side rotates, whether it's going west or east.
They see these old ramps, though. They know there's got to be some other competitors nearby. Forced to dive a little bit sooner to touch ground because they had to get these bandages going. They needed to make sure that they don't find themselves too weak by the time they get into zone. One good break for them could potentially be, though, maybe trying to make use of a campfire nearby their current location. Over at Charon's Crossing, very high odds that they're going to be able to run into one. But at the same time, Oliver OG and Larson tangoing currently with Dragon and Poppy Blast. It's all about the control of the Rift Island right now, and Walls just getting melted non-stop by this waterbending Mythic. Oliver and Larson both have one, and it's just such a threat here. Dragon, Poppy Blast, they fully understand that they cannot keep up. They're gonna back off for the time being and just allow Oliver, OG, and Larson the free capture point here of Rift Island. This nice little goodie loot pile now that Oliver and Larson are gonna surely be able to make good use of.
You know, double water Mythic right there beats double Hades chain through the box, you know? So I think I'll take that. I'll take that.
Maybe have to ask some of the players later on whether or not they agree with your sentiment on that, because I don't know, man. I saw some pretty crazy things with those chains of Hades.
So that's my point. It's like, I would rather have someone...
Oh, you'd rather have the waterbending Mythic.
Yes, the infinite pressure from waterbending than two players diving in with the Hades chains.
I thought you were trying to say the other way.
That fight would have ended if it was the other way around.
Giant Surge Tower just smack dab in the middle of Grim Gate. Sphinx, though, has lost threats. He's just trying to keep an incredibly low profile right now. Can hear players scurrying around underneath him. The other challenging task involved with this current position as well. Peterbot Pollo directly above his head now. A Sphinx just praying nobody spots him out, hiding in between these different pre-built layers that others have established, but now he sees a moment to strike, jumps in, Cold though immediately smacks him down. This is our elimination. Why are you trying to intervene? Because it looked like Pollo was actually part of the casualties involved.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't even know where Cold came from at that point. Quick read there. Kanata and Cooper under serious pressure once again right now. Look at the heals, Taco. Shield's gone. Down to, it looks like they used up their Flowberry Fizz. Like, this is just really rough for Team Dignitas's Kanata and Dig Cooper. So unfortunate, but there's still developments happening all around the map right now. There's still opportunity for Kanata and Cooper, because guess who has just been taken out? It's Pollo and Peterbot. Still, Pollo lets his guard down, and we just talked about how Acorn found his pick out of nowhere. He does it again. Cold and Acorn, the duo right now on a comeback here. Might be the saviors for the NA standings at this point, but we still have Peterbot standing here.
As long as Peterbot is up, I will never count this duo out. The way that we saw both Peterbot and Pollo individually clutch up in multiple matches during day one MDF, it is just impossible to factor them out. Whether it is as an individual or as a duo, these guys are just nasty with their gameplay performance. Granted, no white heals, though, is going to make this situation a lot more difficult, but Frostmon and Saucy likely not even aware of the fact that Peterbot is a solo in that box right now. Checking back in, though, with Kanata and Cooper. They are definitely worse for wear in this current position, but if they get this pick onto Paco without drawing too much attention, but no, instead sprayed. Material count just so low. Kanata and Cooper, they have relived this exact situation over and over again throughout Grands. But how many more times do they have to bring it back to life?
Yeah, what do you do here? Like, he needs to get into a fight. They land on a team. It's Paco and Mixon here. They definitely have the HP advantage, but Kanata's turning up right now. Beautiful tag to keep him in the game right now. Otherwise, Surge would have already been doing damage, because it is now officially active and they just slipped below. So it's all or nothing right now for Kanata and Cooper, and realistically, the odds are put and pinned against them, and he misses the shots that matter, but Cooper's there to back him up, and they fend off Paco and Mixon, who go running. And this is one of the problems with battling here inside the underworld. Everyone has dashes, right? It doesn't get any easier. Cooper goes into the box and he finds one. Kanata needs to hit this tag. He gets one and then a second to keep them in the running. And just enough time, Taco, just enough time to get the pickup here onto Cooper.
They are isolated currently from the rest of the lobby. That quick moment of relief, that's the break that they needed here in Game 8. Peterbot, meanwhile, still trying to establish his lead, maintain his dominance. Pikes absolutely massacred in the distance thanks to that waterbending Mythic. that Peterbot is rocking, but his builds are incredibly low. He definitely still needs to figure out a white heal situation, and he's got to do it fast because he is running out of time. The rest of the lobby starting to pull into his current position. He's playing from the low ground, trying to make sure that nobody spots him out while he's looking for the refarm of his materials.
You got to respect the risk Peterbot's willing to take right here. Most players would probably, you know, throw a little cone over just to safely pickaxe away at that brick, but no, he's want to risk it all just for the small lead there. Let's take a look at G Monster, barely above as well. This is going to be a very, very scrappy endgame. You can just tell, look at all the HP differences with every team in the distance, the nameplates. Folks are hurting everywhere. And this is what you want if you're a player like G Monster right now, but no damage coming his way just yet.
Currently in the top 10, though, this could be a great opportunity for G Money and Reciprocal to build their way up in the leaderboard standings. Only got one elimination. Excuse me, no, that's Peterbot with his one elimination that he found earlier onto Pikes. Trying to do his best to tarp through some of these mid-ground layers, low-ground area, but Hamzo and Rise just on the other side of his walls. Peterbot going for the reload in advance for that waterbending mythic. Wants to make sure that if he does get caught up in an engagement, he's able to have at least some form of fight back, but Cold and Acorn, these two still running it down, dominating the low ground. Aaron and Chance looking like they're on their last bit of life, and sure enough, when Cold and Acorn come knocking on the backside of your walls, you have to expect what they're after. It's just too easy to find these double eliminations.
Yeah, they're just racking them up now. 6 eliminations for them. You get to watch it back one more time. Look at how clean that was right there. Ball take, the edit, the monsters tag right behind it. Kanata and Cooper on the move right now, though. Finding a player into the box, bringing him down, and Kanata gets what he's asked for. And that's a huge pump shot to the face, unfortunately. Can Cooper get the save here? He definitely has enough time on the clock. But no, Trashy gets into the builds there and finishes his duo. That's rough, but hey, he's still alive. Placement points are being given out, but it doesn't really matter. As long as Peterbot's in the game, they're not truly closing the point gap. The pressure on nonetheless. Trashy and Skittles here having a real chance now. Meanwhile, on high ground, Clicks and Epic Whale. Put some respect on it. They're going from high ground to high ground, challenging Acorn and Cold down low here.
Might have bit off a little bit more than they could chew, though. They've got to be careful because Acorn and Cold, they've got more than one team on their same layer. Clicks and Epic doing what they can to just prevent Bolts from having a chance with Bryce to try and threaten the high ground. All the while, Cooper, backside, immediately spotted out, though. Doesn't even get a chance to keep his run going any further. At least managed to dip into the placement point, so that's for sure. Cold and Acorn, though, dropped from that secondary height all the way to low ground, and it's Peterbot, of all people, who finds that elimination.
The story comes full circle. That is a revenge elimination. If you've been paying attention, Cold took down Boyo earlier. Peterbot claps back in the end game, so he does get the last laugh here as he continues to run away with things, because it does look like, of course, Cooper and Kanata are officially out as well. So look at that here on high ground. My oh my, it's Clicks and Epic Whale down low. Bolts and Bryce surging up the standings right now. 3 eliminations and another end game for them. Talk about a big opportunity here for them as they're working their way towards the top 3.
The moment anyone looks up, though, Clicks, he only had 6 builds. Last we checked in, Reet doing what he can to try and escape from the clutches of Bolts and Bryce. Currently controlling the secondary height. They've got a quick pause. Shield potion being utilized, but Clicks again, 0 builds. And it's Peterbot, though, losing practically all of his HP. Clicks didn't find that final shot. Skittles, though, his duo Trashy will make sure to get the job done. But at the same time, Trashy having lost Skittles, Peterbot still very happy at the sabotage he was able to play.
See, Trashy is bouncing back and left and right there, indecisive. What side he wants to exit out of the zone. He just sees players everywhere. This is it, though. Finally out of material. Players above him. Players coming out the storm. Bolts just gets rocked, but not before he gets the elimination credit. Meanwhile, Reet and Ritual on the low ground, running things to the ground here. 7 eliminations and counting now as they go for high ground. Bryce is in a battle there, and it's not going to be enough. It seems like Ritual and Reet will maintain the dominant position here against the 2 solos of Bugha and TK. TK eliminated, 2v1 situation. Reet and Ritual managed to do it again here. Another end game for them, and look at this. From out of the conversation to very much in this conversation now. 470 points and counting if they can get this elimination, which they likely would. Bugha's on the run, but for how much longer?
Bugha's got to be down to his final bit of builds, but it's just the split approach now. Bugha isolated finally. Ritual is going to drop down from his perch and make sure to take down Bugha in game number 8. Reet and Ritual, though, way to come alive in this final moments, because this is a much-needed victory royale. That's going to give them some great points in the leaderboard.
Yeah, that's going to at least put them in 2nd place now, because with, you know, getting close to that 500-point mark, at least gives them a real fighter's chance. And look at this. They really have managed to rocket their way back up. Tons of elims. The end game, they played it flawlessly, executing the retake for high ground. You just have to genuinely appreciate the consistency we're seeing all of a sudden now from Reet and Ritual. And not only that, it was from a low ground performance, right? Those are always super, super fun to watch. And respect to Bugha, 2nd place. Bugha also having his time in the limelight. So there it is. Game 8 now concluded for the King Reet. And of course, Ritual here back-to-back. And you know what? They've been a long-standing dude. They're only getting better, Taco.
For sure, and I think they just did such an excellent job as well, just staying ahead of the zone, playing that front side. But there's a lot more that took place throughout the course of Game 8, so Zeke, Vivid, Kelly, you know what to do.